So, welcome to the Authentic Creative, expanding our capacity to feel good. I am super excited because I have my dear friend Jen Heller here today, and I'm going to read her bio and then I'll share with you guys the amazingness that is Jen. But first, Jen Heller is deeply rooted and a trusted resource in the holistic health and wellness space, plus a wealth of knowledge when it comes to optimizing your home into a wellness sanctuary. She's an expert in detoxification, and her main wheelhouse is infrared saunas. She, of course, has a sauna in her home, but also owned and operated a wellness center and sauna studio for many years in southern Wisconsin. Years ago, her personal health struggle with weight, a stroke that left her paralyzed, plus a massive burden of heavy metal toxicity inspired her to take control of her own health and healing. Along the way, she used infrared heat therapy, hyperbaric therapy, meditation, upgraded her nutrition to lose over 100 pounds, and create a vibrant, active lifestyle. Her mission is simple: support others to pave their path to health and happiness, plus teach you how to create a home that heals. Her site, jenhellerlifestyle.com, is loaded with products, connections, and tools: saunas, cold plunge, hyperbaric chambers, frequency machines, etc., that connect you to your overall wellness. I met Jen at Kathy Heller's house. We were at a retreat and we just had so much fun. We just really hit it off. And then we met again in LA more recently. We sat next to each other during a podcasting summit, and we're just giggling and sharing insights and laughing and hugging. And there's pictures of us that I'm going to keep sharing. And I just feel like she's such a soul sister to me so quickly, just like know when you meet someone like, yeah, okay, we've got a lot to talk about here. And so she has a new podcast, Homes That Heal. Am I saying the name right?
You are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good, good. And she's just launched it and she has a whole new website that's fantastic. You guys have to check it out. So we're just going to chat about healing and health and wellness and your journey, Jen. Thank you so much for being here. I know how busy you are.
Oh, yeah. Never too busy for you, of course.
I know you've had all the things thrown at you today, and I'm so glad that you said that to me when you popped on, because I was like, oh my God, yes, because can we please just talk about what it means to be a female entrepreneur in the world, like with social media the way it is, and people needing responses and us feeling like we have to be constantly hyper vigilant. Like, let's just talk about that for a second.
Yeah, let's, because that's literally how I feel right now. And I was just having what I would consider a quick bite to eat before we jumped on and was chatting with my husband outside.
Me
Like I
too.
got
I
up,
was outside eating with my husband. That's so funny. Okay, go ahead.
I'm like, which is obviously why my face is a little red too. It's like gorgeously sunny. And I'm like, I just need to soak in some universe energy right
Yes.
now and just ground and just
Yes.
barefoot on the earth. That's what I did for a few minutes. And I'm like, 1,000 things have crossed my path in the last 24 hours. All like I don't want to
Right?
say, internet went down, my computer froze on me this morning. I had a bunch of social media posts that went out this morning, some programmed or some planned, and then others just that spontaneously popped in, and it just had a flurry of amazing feedback and conversation. So then, of
Ooh.
course, to your point, you're like, you got to answer all the people and you got to stay engaged. And I'm like, but wait, I got to do all this. And then I go in my office and my computer's black screen. I was like, oh, lovely. Okay, this is great. I actually had another podcast interview with another friend of mine earlier today, and the internet's going in and out, in and out, in and out. I'm
Oh
like,
my goodness. You're,
three
it's
different.
because you're like blasting off and it's like careful what you wish for.
I know. And so that's what I was just telling Mark, my husband. I was like, he's like, well, so you asking for a few extra minutes of grace or whatever was perfect because I'm like, I just have to collect myself. He's like, are you sure you want to do this? Like the internet's bouncing in. I'm like, of course I want to do this because this is the universe telling me that this energy is fantastically powerful and we need to continue to keep rolling with whatever comes at us. I always say life happens for us, not to us. And so I have not always thought this way, but I would say that this was a shift I made quite a few years ago where when something comes at you like this, it's like, okay, take a breath, maybe two, maybe four, and step back and think, how do I handle this? This is interesting feedback. Like, how would I move forward in this moment? And this morning at the, my other conversation is like, we're just going to hit record and whatever comes, comes. And what doesn't wasn't meant to be said or heard. That's okay.
Mm,
That's how we're going to go about today. So
that's
I am
right.
so grateful for you and your beautiful welcome and open. Always makes me feel like so heart-centered when I hear other people read or say things about my journey, because
Mhm.
I also think sometimes we don't, I don't say give ourselves enough credit, but take a
Yep.
step back and think a lot like, wow, it's been a journey. It's
Yes.
been a lot of
Yes.
interesting twists and turns. And so whenever somebody reads that or shares that or talks about, I'm sure maybe you can resonate with this, all of the time, money, and energy that we invest in ourselves and our health and our well-being, it just, it's my lifestyle. So I don't really think about all of it or everything that that it encompasses. I sometimes forget, I guess, that a stroke paralyzed me 10 years ago, right? Like I don't
Yes.
ever really totally forget, but when somebody else says it, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that actually happened. Versus I look at it as that was a check engine light that I had to work through for a few years. And also catapulted me into my passion and my purpose. So I'm grateful for all of the lessons and I'm grateful for the no internet today. And I'm grateful the fact that you and I can still connect and have this conversation because it's going to be a good one.
Yes. 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 To everything you just said. I want to, as you just were highlighting, look at this personal health struggle with weight, because that's the first thing that you say about your
Yeah.
past. What do you feel comfortable and safe sharing about that in particular?
Oh, well, first of all, there's a lovely before photo of me that probably was one of the biggest challenges that I faced to share that publicly online because it was so shameful.
Mhm.
Um, but that was the what I call suit I was carrying around for many years, and that was the vessel that I was wearing until one day a stranger came into my life and completely embarrassed me and shamed me in public in front of a bunch of my friends and family like no one had ever done before. Called me fat, called me all sorts of names. Now, I'm not a name caller by any means, but he put the word fat in front of just about every cruel word or name that you could call a woman
Mhm.
and just berated me. And so no one had ever done that to me before. No one had ever spoken to me like that. And I didn't see myself as that, but at the time, and I have always had like a beautiful friend circle and loving family, and like nobody really talked to me like that until this perfect stranger walks in and just decided to share what he felt or what he saw I was, and it affected me in a way that I excused myself. I was out with a couple girlfriends that night, and I calmly excused myself and just said, I'm going to run to the bathroom quick. And I went in the bathroom and my body gave out. I dropped to my knees in a bathroom stall on a bar floor and cried and sobbed like I had never cried. There was an electric current running through my body that I'd never felt before, but it struck so deep. Like I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about it. I can't even tell this story because it always brings me right back to it. Um, but I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed, and everybody in the room that heard it quickly pivoted and went back to doing whatever that is they were doing. It was a Friday night. There was a live band, and
Mm.
so people just moved right back into festivities.
Hmm.
but something in me broke. And I sat on that bathroom floor for an unknown amount of time, just thinking about it and just shaking and trying to collect my thoughts. I was also sobbing like uncontrollably. Fortunately, no one else came in the bathroom, so obviously that space just cleared for me to take the time I needed.
Yeah.
But once I collected myself, I got up and looked myself in the mirror and made a decision that I was going to make a change for my health, and figure out why I was unhealthy and why I was overweight and how, I mean, I was well over 100 pounds overweight. And I needed to like get really clear with myself as to why I was making those unhealthy choices. Um, and
Do you feel comfortable sharing what you realized about why?
oh yeah, I thank you for asking, but I definitely feel I hid it for a long time, but that's part of the podcast. That's why I'm on the path I'm at now, is like I want to share because I feel this resonates with a lot of women.
That's right.
Um,
Yes.
I was in I was in a toxic relationship. I got married really young, and I was when I mean nobody really understands what goes on inside the walls of somebody's home, and do know that it wasn't like it wasn't severe abuse or anything like that. It was just a disconnect. I married a man that I wasn't in love with, and it just felt safe at the time. And I realized it, and I was just burying myself with food and burying myself with alcohol. And, I was having a lot of fun with my friends,
Mm.
but my relationship was not well. And it wasn't something that I knew how to communicate or articulate very effectively. And when I did try to bring it up, it wasn't received very well. And so then it just got swept under the rug. Um, so that was probably the biggest realization, was that I needed to find a healthy way to either fix that relationship or get out of it.
Right.
And so, because I lived in a beautiful home and I had a good job, and but I felt like that was the main thing, was that I was really unhappy there. My job, it's interesting because once you start this wheel, once you get things in motion and
Mhm.
you start really looking inward,
Mhm.
you discover a lot of things
Yeah.
that you're content with, but you're like, am I really happy?
Right.
I mean, define joy. Could I live with this? Yes. Am I joyful? No.
Right.
So I started looking at a lot of different things. The step I took forward for my health was I wanted to figure out why A, I was so overweight, and B, like many people, I mean, it wasn't my first attempt at losing weight. I had tried a million things, and
Sure.
it didn't work. And
Yeah.
so at this point, I had to step back and think like, okay, this is bigger than just a bottle of pills I can buy at the Walgreens or CVS, right? It was a
Hmm.
bigger
Hmm.
conversation I had to have with myself. And also, I felt really unbalanced. Like I felt disconnected from from Earth, basically. I just felt like I was a shell. And so I sought out a natural practitioner that helped me muscle test on my body what was missing and like why my body was responding the way that it was to food and just in general, because I was suffering from fatigue. And of
Hmm.
course, you can attribute that to the weight problem, but really, again, when you peel back the layers, it's like that's just the symptom of like what else is going on,
Yeah.
right?
Like, what's the root
So,
here? Yeah. And this is
yeah.
your early 20s we're talking about?
Oh, this is mid 20s.
Mid
Yeah,
20s.
mid 20s.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, mid 20s. So it was a lot of discovery. It was a lot of self-discovery. And, a couple factors play into this. The stroke came from heavy metal toxicity. And we discovered the heavy metals through the muscle testing of the body. We discovered I had a thyroid issue, which was also kind of significantly contributing to a hormonal imbalance, as well as me allowing it to release the weight.
And how did the heavy
Um,
metals come into your system? Did you ever figure out the root of that?
We did, yeah. So it was mercury and lead. And so the mercury was coming from mercury amalgams in my mouth from cavities. which I've since had removed. And the lead was just some lead-based paint that I was exposed to in a work environment, in an older building that we just didn't understand. You didn't know until we started testing. So eliminating those two factors and then going about the detoxification. And that's actually where saunas come in, the infrared saunas that I love and I'm passionate
Hmm.
about,
Hmm.
is that again, is like that forced me into how do I fix this? Because I went into massive, the decision I made was that I was going to move mountains to figure this out and I was going to make it a priority. And it didn't matter who, what, where, or what it was, is I was going to just keep moving forward to figure it out. And so the practitioner I was working with, or I'm still working with, she's actually a great friend of mine for years. She's been my go-to resource, of course. Um, she said, she introduced me to infrared and said, "Are you familiar with infrared heat?" The metals had crossed the blood-brain barrier in my body, and so it was causing some neurological issues. And she said it was really important that we safely remove this.
Hmm.
Infrared heat, safe infrared heat is a very effective way to do that. And so I went on a path of discovery of teaching myself with her guidance on infrared heat. What's the difference between a safe infrared sauna versus one that you maybe find online? And started using sauna therapy. And that became the pivotal wheel, or that was the 1%. I know Kathy talks about a lot, like just shifting 1% and like what that does over the trajectory of like time. If you shift 1% and just go a different way, just make one small pivot. That 1% of me just making a couple of changes literally sent my life into a different path. Meaning, I started using sauna therapy, but what was also really going on inside that sauna was I was getting really clear and vulnerable and real with asking myself questions. Like,
Mm.
you get naked, you strip it down, you pull
Mm.
away the layers, and you sit in a space with yourself and you start sweating and all the things, like everything just started kind of bubbling up. I started meditating. That's where I found breath work. That's
Mm.
where I started really finding the connection and the relationship with myself instead of looking outward. And so every time I'd get into the sauna, I mean, yes, you burn calories, you're detoxifying, but it forced me to disconnect from everything else outside and just go inward. And boy, was that an interesting conversation every day. I mean, you get really real and
Mm.
raw,
Mm.
and I bared a lot of emotion because I knew I was in the privacy of myself and no one was watching.
Mm.
And it felt so good to let it out and let it go.
Yeah.
So,
You're literally like letting it drip and melt off of you and out
yes,
of
exactly.
you. I feel that. This stroke you had, that's a big deal to have a stroke at the age you had it. My mom had a stroke, and it's pretty amazing to be able to not only recover, but to be fully functioning.
Yeah, I would say I'm not 100% in the sense of, I mean, you can't really see, but my left hand, we're still working through some function. Basically, what it did was affected the left side of the body. It was a combination of, again, stress. Like a lot of it's all didn't all happen all at the same time. Things just kind of unraveled. But what really triggered the stroke, actually, what I now know, with a few years of discovery of like figuring out how does this happen to somebody at my age, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it was kind of a combination of a few things, and a couple of things were out of my control. When I was a teenager, I was involved in an explosion
Okay.
that was very unfortunate. It was fatal for the guy that I dated, and he was my boyfriend in high school. It was an accident, and but it was very powerful. I fortunately was not severely injured, but the impact that it had on my brain, um, we've now realized that it concussed the right side of my brain significantly, where it actually shifted and caused some neurological issues. So a combination of that head trauma, the heavy metals that, really kind of mess with the nervous system, to function in a harmonious way.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, you pile outsourced stressors that cause anxiety and stress. And then you throw on sleep deprivation on top of it. It was
Well,
kind of
and
the perfect storm.
you just said that your boyfriend died
Yeah,
in that incident.
correct. Yeah, we were
Um,
teenagers.
Talk about trauma.
It
My
was.
goodness, Jen. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It was
Oh,
it was trauma that I didn't know. I didn't, I was a teenager, right? Like, how do you deal with that? I've been working through that and trying to understand that situation my entire adult life, to be quite
mm,
honest.
mm.
And so wondering how that has impacted my life
Of
and just
course, of
a
course.
tra a traumatic event that you carry with you in the cellular system, as well as just, how do you deal with that when you're 15, right? It's it's hard to even put into words, but
Yeah.
the physical trauma that my head took, again, I didn't understand that or the repercussions of it at that time. And so, I've otherwise lived a very healthy, normal life, normal life, and didn't have any overarching issues that were continuously showing like that was not going to be a symptomatic thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It just, like I said, it kind of cult the stroke happened because of a combination of a few things,
Yeah.
and that was just one piece of the puzzle.
I'm just so curious if you're okay with it. What was this explosion? Like, why did it happen? Where was it? What actually happened? Are you able to share that, or is it too upsetting?
No, I mean, it was almost 30 years ago, right? Or 28 years ago. I mean, yeah, it's upsetting. Without going into the super details of it, it was a total accident. It was boys being boys and playing
Oh,
around.
okay.
And it was just a very unfortunate circumstance that nobody anticipated.
Yeah.
And
Was
it,
it like fireworks or they were setting off or something?
no, it was just using some black powder and creating um a couple of the boys were they were trying to shoot marbles is what they were trying to do. They were trying to like make their own ammo, so to speak, and used it in the form of a pipe, and thought that it was going to react like a gun, right? Like shooting a pellet gun, so to speak. And it unfortunately it backfired. And
Jen, that is so upsetting. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
yeah, it's
Oh,
completely changed my life. He was my first love. I carry him with me everywhere I go. I still have a picture of him. Talk to him often. I feel like he's still with me. Yeah, it's an interesting
mm,
situation in the sense that I see him as a guiding light and
yeah.
have for all these years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's something that I've had to take reflection on many times and try to understand the process of it, like I said, as an adult.
Yeah,
Kind
like
of.
so much forgiveness work for yourself, for him, for the people involved, for the people who you felt were meant to protect all of you. Like I'm imagining so much forgiveness work that you've had to do and that you'll continue to revisit when it feels safe. And what that journey's been for you, I can only imagine.
Yeah, I'm still friends with the family and love them dearly. And yeah, it's definitely something that it's a process. And there are a lot of different emotions that I've gone through over it. And like I said, I feel very good about the peace that I have, knowing that he's still close, and it's still, again, going back to life happening for me.
Yes,
I
yes,
try to
yes,
find the lesson in that, although it was
yes.
probably one of the most tragic things of my life. I try to find the lesson in how can I use this to serve others or myself, and what are the lessons there.
Yep.
But you know, it it's given me clarity. It's given me a clear understanding, and it also heeds the conversation, when I'm talking to other people about their health and their well-being and maybe the disease or disease that they're suffering from. The conversation that we have is around what has happened in your life, like what things are you carrying with you, and is there anything notable that you maybe need to work through some emotions on or go inward in with? Um, and it's usually not the obvious things, right? Like heavy metal toxicity and brain trauma. And, those are not things that are tangible, right? Like you can't, I don't want to say touch those things. It's not like I fell down and broke my leg. Like that's obvious, right?
Yeah.
It's an energetic disconnect or an energetic experience that caused a frequency within me, and my body responded a certain way. And I now have feedback, a lot of feedback on how that has shaped my life and my mindset and my body. It's also been wildly motivating for me to have gratitude for my life and this body that I carry every day.
Yeah.
I often wonder why, over the years, I've asked myself, why did I walk away from that when others
Right.
did not?
Yeah.
Um, that's a lot to process. And
Yes.
so I look at that as, what am I supposed to do with this information? How can I be the most beneficial? What is for my best and highest good? And how can I help others who have potentially been through other traumatic or their own traumas, that they can see light from it?
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, what is the clarity? And I think you already answered my question. But if there's more to when you said it's given me clarity, and then I have something else I want to share. But like, what is the soul level truth for you that you have found when you say it's given me clarity? Like, what do you know for sure about life because of that?
Well, great question. What I know for sure is that I am a bright light, and that how we found each other and how we've forged our friendship is, I believe that we're all bright lights here for purpose, and that I am meant to be a catalyst for others for their health and well-being. Um, it's
Hmm.
given me a ton of clarity and motivation and encouragement to launch the podcast Homes That Heal, because I feel very, very strongly about creating a space of harmonious peace and healing, whatever that looks like for you or anybody. It looks different for everyone, of course. And so, how I've healed my body physically, but also mentally and emotionally, is through creating a life, like truly creating a life, not just saying it, not just posting the memes online, not just engaging in the conversations, but like really embodying what this means and bringing the things that are most important to me, like the sauna and the hyperbaric oxygen chamber. I needed that oxygen chamber to get my brain oxygen. Well, I don't want to be at the mercy to go somewhere. I need that under my roof. I need that every day. And so creating this place, we call our house Heller Haven. And that is because it is my haven. It is my sanctuary space. I have everything that I need to feel healthy and whole under my roof. And so, not only for my own wellness, but also a few years ago when I had to close my wellness center. So I opened a wellness center 10 years ago or 11 years ago now to teach this to other people. We had 7 glorious years. I'm so grateful for it. It was one of the most tremendous experiences of my life. But unfortunately, we had to let it go during COVID. And what I realized in that moment was all of the people that were depending on me and my space for their health. And so it was like, okay, another step back. What is the lesson here? I need to teach people how to not be dependent on me or anywhere else. If you need this for your cancer treatment, or you need this for your migraines, or you need this for your back pain, then we need to figure out a way for you to be able to invest in this modality and bring it into your home. So it's the closest to you, so it's convenient for you, so that you can incorporate into your wheel, so that you can be the best version of yourself every day, not just select days you go to an appointment. So, yeah, that's
Okay.
really the passion behind Homes That Heal is create the space that's going to allow you to be the best version of yourself. But if you need to heal from something, it's there, it's for you. Like this morning, for example, when I was having all sorts of technology issues,
Mm-hmm.
like the
Mm-hmm.
definition of insanity to me is technology when it's not working. I'm like, why, Starlink, why aren't you on? Um, or why aren't you working? I go up to my yoga space. I have a yoga studio in my house now. I sit down
Mm-hmm.
on my mat and I grab a couple of my favorite crystals and I just sat there with them in my hand and I was like, okay, clearly my frequency is so powerful today that I'm just blowing the roof off my Starlink. And I need to somehow channel this energy and just get back into my own peace and alignment. Took about 3 or 4 minutes. And then you know the drill. It just washes over you. It's like, okay, here we go. Done. But I've
Reset.
created,
You had to reset your own internet.
yeah,
And
thank you. My own
and
Wi-Fi.
yeah, and Jen, the other thing I wanted to say is that incident that happened, the things that happened for you. It so reminds me of like a Superman story, and it's very galactic. It's very like Starseed or something. Like it's very heroic. It's very like epic movie plot line. You know what I'm saying? So there's a huge, as you already know, mission, and I'm just revalidating that.
Thank you. You're
Huge
not the first
mission.
person. You're not the
Yeah.
first person to tell me that. I've actually had I went to Sedona last year on a solo trip. I love taking solo trips a couple of times a year. I used to do it once a year. Now I find ways to do it twice a year outside
Yep.
of my other fun stuff. And I went to Sedona for a week last year to actually work through some of the things that I want, like from my previous marriage, as well as give a ton of gratitude. Like we all know Sedona is a powerful place, but I've pretty much healed my body back to wholeness. And I wanted to give Mother Earth a huge thank you, as well as just spend an enormous amount of time in like the vortex energy. There's not enough time in the day for me to tell you what actually happened on that trip. It was amazing. Like if I told you a few of the things that happened, you'd be like, what? No way. That could not have possibly happened. Like they're legit, oh, like, universal synchronicities, people showing up, praying over, like all these things on top of the vortex. Like I couldn't make it up. It's total book worthy. But I signed up for this UFO experience, we'll call it.
Okay.
Because I'm like I'm intrigued by what's
You're
going on in
into
the
it. Yeah,
galaxies.
got
Yeah.
it.
And I was with a few people that I'd never met before. You just sign up and I go up to the top of the vortex. And this guy at the end of the evening came up to me. He put both hands on my shoulders, looked me dead in the eye. I'm telling you right now, I feel like I've seen into the soul of this person before. And he came to me and said, Jen, you are a starseed here with a big mission. Do not ever forget that. And I
Right.
was like, okay, all right, message received. He didn't tell me what my mission was. I think I already know, but
Yeah, it's what you just were
it's
sharing with us
yeah,
partly.
but it's
Yes.
interesting that you use the term starseed because that's actually the first time I've heard that term a million times, but no one has ever directed it at me before. So that was interesting.
Mm. Yeah, I love how the COVID experience is so different for everyone, but it really was a reset of, okay, let's reevaluate, let's step back. And your ability now to say, okay, I've shown myself in my own life how to heal my body. These are the tools that I've used to cleanse, to recenter, to reset, to reorganize my brain, my health, my wholeness.
Mm.
I created it here for others, and now I'm going to step back and I'm going to teach you. And this is like the path of the teacher. I'm going to teach you how to do this for yourself, and creating these havens for each person in their own homes is like wholeness. Like, how do we create this wholeness in our own homes unto ourselves? Okay, I'm interested in, my mom had migraine headaches my whole growing up. She was completely incapable most of the time of doing literally anything. Like had
Mm.
like bedridden with migraines.
Mm.
So when you said migraines, I'm like, oh my gosh, please help these women that have, I mean, men too, of course, but how does it help people with migraines?
Oh, interesting that you bring this up. I just was at an event last night and I went this event was in was in the town that I had my wellness center for many years. And when I after closing, we sold our house and we moved out of the city into the country. Like I said, we built this beautiful house and like it's about 35 minutes away from where my wellness center was. Last week, I had a guy reach out to me on one of the my social platforms saying, "Hey, I got your number from my neighbor. Um, can you, my wife gets migraines and he said that it helped him as well. Can you help me?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. Give me a call." So we jumped on the phone. He ordered a sauna. It's being shipped to him today, actually, funny enough. Um,
Yes.
being shipped to him today. But the guy who was my member at my wellness center for many years, who was always suffering from migraines, who then bought a sauna for his home, I hadn't seen him in years. And so he lives in the same town as the event was last night. And so I went to the event because I got invited. I have a sauna that's showcased in one of the Parade of homes. And I thought to myself, I hope I run into him because he also has attended this event in the past. Siri, I'm not joking. I was there 5 minutes and I walked in. I was just arriving and I was like, Ryan. I said, Ryan, like
You
of
knew.
a thousand people who are going to be at this event, I was hoping to see Ryan to thank him personally for sharing his story with his neighbor, who is now, now he's spreading wellness, right? So I walked up to it, I was like, Ryan, oh my gosh, you're never gonna believe this. And he's like, hey, did he call you? And I was like, he did. And so we had this amazing like hug and like thank you full circle moment for like that's the ripple effect of helping other people, helping thy neighbor, right? And so we had this whole conversation around migraines. He's like, Jen, I don't get migraines anymore. I haven't had them for years, ever since I've been using sauna therapy. And his wife was like, can you tell me how? Can you tell me why that works? She's like, I'm happy, but
Yeah.
why is it? And I'm not a doctor, so I can't get into the details. I try to be really respectful of like that explanation, so to speak. But
Hmm.
really broadly speaking, infrared light energy it mimics the sunlight, but without dangerous UV rays. So when you stand out in the sun, we were just talking about this when we first got on, sitting outside, that radiant heat, that radiant warmth that we feel when we're soaking that in, we feel it in our core. We feel that red light energy during a sunrise and a sunset, like our bodies just respond. We are energetic beings of nature. We respond to sunlight, just like the plants grow, like all the things. We need light energy. And so infrared, when it's designed and articulated a safe way, it mimics sunlight. So you're basically climbing into a box of like all this goodness of radiant light energy. Now our bodies respond to it as heat, so we heat up and our core temperature rises about 2 to 3 degrees. So that's where the level of detoxification comes in. That's where if metals or something, mold or something's hanging out in our cellular system, it can purge and the lymphatic system can remove it. But really, what it's also doing is it's putting our bodies at a harmonious state. It's taking us out of fight or flight. It's
Mm,
removing, you know, when you take off your clothes, like we all know as women, the feeling when you take your bra off, like
yeah.
freeing, right? Or when you're not wearing one, right? You're just like, oh, this is the best.
So it's like the healing energy of going to the beach, but without
Correct.
the danger and the all
Correct.
day situation and the sand in your cracks.
Exactly. All that. And so it's forcing the body to basically like kind of melt and relax. And so scientifically, there are some other things going on, but really what it's doing is it's allowing your body to take the tension out. Like, you
Right.
know, even just sitting, right? When we catch ourselves, like when we go into a beautiful meditation or a breath work or a
Yep.
yoga, you know, the instructor's like, okay, loosen your shoulders. I'm like, oh, how the hell does she know I need to loosen my shoulder? You know what I mean? It's like,
Yep.
we guide you into that space. Infrared kind of guides you into that space so you allow the body to relax. And so because you can put yourself into that space, the heat, the lights, you know, oftentimes I'm listening to meditation or whatever the case is, 432 hertz is also a fantastic frequency, but you're just putting your body into a state of healing.
Okay.
And so a migraine doesn't can't live in that. It doesn't thrive in that type of environment.
So can you just drink a lot of water while you're in there? Because that's for me what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. Like I just gonna need to drink, 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 drink.
Oh
Yeah?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, drink water before. You definitely don't want to dehydrate yourself. So I always have a glass of water sitting outside, big tall glass of water. I mean, you can bring it in, but it gets hot, so you want to set it outside. But yeah, you're just drinking and like releasing and purging and just hydrating. It's like a bath for the inner soul,
Yes.
basically.
Okay. And then if you're someone who has skin cancer, who has skin cancer in remission, can you use this?
Oh
Because,
yeah, yes.
okay,
Oh, well, let me rephrase. Always talk to your practitioner, always talk
yeah.
to your health advocate, you know, and find out if it's right for you. But infrared is not going to cause that. It doesn't have the dangerous UV. So it's not going to be, it doesn't mimic that piece of it.
Because I'm just thinking about my stepdad and how he's dealt with that in the past and how he really can't be out in the sun.
Right. Right. And there are some contraindications. So again, I always encourage people with whatever it is that you have going on, check with your practitioner or check with a holistic healer or somebody you trust to find out somebody who actually knows what infrared heat is because it is different than a traditional sauna, of course. And not all infrared saunas are created equal, like everything else. So get with somebody who really understands the benefits of infrared and also understands your condition and find out if that's a good match or a good fit for you.
Okay. And if I want to get one in my home, where am I supposed to put it? Can I put it in my garage?
Well, yeah, you can put it pretty much anywhere. I mean, depending on what state you're in, if you want it to be, you know, if you're, where are you located? I
I
forget.
mean, I'm outside Portland, Oregon, in Camas,
Portland. Okay.
Washington. Yeah.
Yeah, tons of people have saunas in garages. In cooler temperatures, of course, you know, if it's far, you know, really cold temperatures and in a garage, it might take a little longer to heat up, or, you know,
Okay.
you have to have an understanding. It is technically, we have inside and outside saunas. But if you're putting an indoor sauna out in a garage or in a basement or in, you know, a non-climatized or temp controlled space, you might just have to tweak a few things or just know that it might take an extra 10 to 15 minutes or something to heat up.
Okay. I want to ask you about your referral business. Is that already
Okay.
happening? Is it about to happen? What's going on with that?
In reference to the saunas or
When I first met you, you were like, I'm going to be referring people, connecting people.
oh yeah.
Is that still
So
in the works? What's going on with
oh
that?
no, that's full swing. And so so I have you read the book The Go-Giver? Have you ever read that?
I know about it, but it's on my list.
Okay, so Bob Berg, The Go-Giver. I read his book, I don't know, a few years ago, and it was life-changing for me in the sense of if anybody who's read it knows the guy in there is called the connector. And that really just resonated with me to want to be like the wellness connector because of course you can't be all knowing. I do cold plunge, I do hyperbaric, I do a lot of things, but it's, you know, not my expertise wheelhouse to be all knowing in everything and all things. So I just want to be able to point people in the right directions. And so
Hmm.
that really is the Jen Recommends resource guide on my website is kind of the home base of that.
Okay.
So that if people are looking for those, yeah. And from a referral standpoint, I always encourage people to reach out and if I can point you in the right direction. But a lot of the links and stuff are all right there. And yeah, that's going to be continuously growing, of course. And
Amazing.
yeah, that's again, that's one of my passions is just help people point them in the right direction, just help them along the way. It's not necessarily, it's just to come with me. I'll figure this out. Let's find you the right people and the right path. Because fortunately, that is how I pieced my life back together is I had a lot of people that raised their hand and said, I will help you, or let me show you the way, or come with me and we'll figure this out together. And so I think that's
You're paying
it's,
it forward. That's
yeah.
beautiful. I love that so much. Jen, your story is incredible. I can tell, as you said, you have a lot of miraculous stories, a lot of information, a lot of wisdom. I mean, we barely scratched the surface, but I do want to close for today and just point people in your direction. I'm going to put all your information in the show notes. Is there any sort of last just realizations or bits of wisdom that have come out of this moment in time with us together that just is on the forefront of your mind or your heart that you want to share as we close?
Hmm. Well, first and foremost, thank you. So much love to you
Yeah.
for your friendship and obviously, this platform to share with your community. It's such an honor and I love that our paths crossed in the way they did. We both love
Me too.
Kathy, obviously. But so I want to say thank you for that. And, you know, if any of this information or anything that I shared lit a fire in you or struck a chord or you found yourself saying yes to any of it or where can I go or what can I do, please feel free to reach out. But just listen to that inner guidance. I turned it off for a while and it took me a bit to hear and listen. But the minute I started moving in that path is when I started to find my alignment. And so I just encourage people to listen to their intuition. And if you're asking yourself, where do I go from here? Be prepared to take action on the answer. So
Yeah, that's great. I love that. There's people in 63 different countries that have listened to this podcast over the past 3 years. So,
amazing.
are you internationally set up or is this just US?
Well, I mean, as far as the podcast and some programs and some things I'll have offered in the future will be
Okay.
international, but
Okay.
the actual physical shipping of saunas and some of those things, we have locations in all over the world.
Oh,
That's a little different and logistical that we'd have to work through, but yeah, just tell her, reach out and we'll find a location in
okay.
your area.
So, no matter where you are in the world, Jen's gonna hook you up. All right. And
Yes.
she's gonna be this excellent pointer for you as well. So, please
Yes.
come with your questions. Let us know what you're curious about because I know that I didn't ask every single question that you guys must be having. Like something's on your mind and your heart right now that we touched upon. Please reach out to us. You can email me, you can email Jen, go on her website, get connected with her, find out what the path is that you're needing here because there's a lot of resources here for you so that you can create this sanctuary in your home. What a beautiful mission you have, Jen. Thank you, thank you,
Oh,
thank you for being on this
thank you.
mission. I am so appreciative of you, not only as a friend and as someone who is bringing so much healing and thriving energy in the world. It is just like such an honor to know you and to promote you and I know that this is just the beginning for me and you. Like I know there's like
Yes,
a million more things that we want to talk about. So
absolutely.
we'll say goodbye for now. Thank you guys for listening and loving you.